Dynasty the king.
If the NFL is indeed scripted, then the script writers need to make sure that they pay the writers of Friday Night Lights for stealing the pilot episode for the Monday Night Football reaction. If you don't know, Jason Street is this highly touted quarterback led to lead a loaded roster to victory. Unfortunately, he gets injured right away, and Matt Saracen, a quarterback no one needed, had to come in to make the play. If that isn't what happened with Aaron Rodgers being Jason Street and Zach Wilson playing the role of Matt Saracen, I don't know what else is. We are a fantasy-focused show, but I do want to check into the Jason Street / Aaron Rodgers owner in our league. Dylan, how are you feeling after this disastrous possible Achilles tear for Aaron Rodgers?
I don't even know where to. I just don't know. It was already a rough weekend in Yacht Club for me. I'm not gonna lie. It was a rough start to the season.
Yeah, it was.
Guys just did not show up right across the board. And then 4 minutes in to the Monday Night Football game, I lose my QB2. My QB2, who I'm at a loss for words. Davis, you ripped me a couple shows ago because I traded 24.
It's time to tank, by the way. Yeah.
I'm not going to tank without my first. I'm at a loss for words. I really don't even know what to say. It's all catching up to me. I'm trying to pivot. I've got to figure out what my next move is going to be. But Davis, is my 24 first for Derek Carr looking bad right now, or it's looking pretty good, huh?
I mean, were you impressed by Derek Carr's performance? Because I sure was not. I mean,
was not optimistic, but listen, I'm in tilt. I'm in full tilt mode.
No, you were in full tilt and
tilting hard.
Yeah, no,
keep the whiskey away. I'm tilting.
So if you did not do that trade, you would be looking so vulnerable right now. So in hindsight, yeah, it's great that you did that deal because, yeah, you spent a first rounder on Carr, which I did not agree with. I still don't agree with that pricing because I don't love Carr. But at the same exact time, if somebody knew that you were down a quarterback and that was your only option, you would be getting charged the world to try and get a quarterback in the current landscape of the Yacht Club.
I would have probably had to use that 24 first to get Zach Wilson.
Literally,
that would have been what I had to do. That would have been terrible.
But to be quite honest with you, to be quite honest, I think, and it's funny, Dylan, because you and I had this conversation in the preseason. There was a point in time that you were like, you know what? If a crazy injury happens, if something freak accident happens, I would love to have my first so that I could then sell at that moment. So this is the moment. Obviously, I'm honestly personally, and I think it's sad to just see like Rodgers kind of go out like this. I'm not saying this is the end of his career, but it very well could be. Yeah, it's just sad. I mean, it seemed like the guy was in such a good headspace. So all things fantasy out of the window, personal, it's extremely sad. But for you in your Yacht Club, you would have been better off holding on to your pick because then you could have went and got Caleb Williams or Drake May or somebody that would actually serve you long term.
Davis, obviously you're grieving with Dylan because you are the Garret Wilson owner. This was a player that was supposed to jump into the top 3 at the position, to join Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase in terms of productivity because of Aaron Rodgers. Now, Garret Wilson is one quarterback down, going back to Zach Wilson. Obviously, you have a pretty deep roster, but what not only is the effect to your team, but what's his overall dynasty impact for all of our listeners out there?
Yeah, and I would say if he was not wide receiver 5 or 6 on my team, I would be tilting a little bit more. That actually might be a stretch. But just for the listeners, just to hear, we've talked about this whole preseason, how I kind of have a tank in this league, the greatest dynasty league in the world. And, everyone's been talking, speculating, is it really going to happen? I mean, I scored, I think, 189 points tonight, and the second highest score on the week was like 130. So feeling pretty good, but that's neither here nor there. To get back to Garret Wilson, I would say yes, from a 23-24 fantasy football production standpoint, I am worried about his outlook. You were looking at a bona fide potential, the wide receiver 1 for the year, pairing him with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, the ceiling was phenomenal. Now you're looking at the ceiling completely capped in 10 games with Zach Wilson. Garret Wilson has had 0 wide receiver 1 finishes. His best finish was wide receiver 14 last year in week 9. So I am extremely concerned just from the ceiling that you're going to get from him. I still think he's going to be a viable option to have in your lineup, but I'm not feeling good if I have him as my wide receiver 1, or to be quite frank with you, even my wide receiver 2. If he didn't score that touchdown, you are looking at a complete bust on the week.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, what an incredible touchdown. That's already the catch of the year. It's probably going to stay that way. So he's a super talented player, but you're going to be worried about the overall usage. Dylan, I want to ask you this because it was something we talked a lot about. You were of the opinion that Dalvin Cook signing didn't hurt Breece Hall that much. It merely gave him someone to spell so he would be healthier and look explosive. All of that was the case this Monday night. What are your thoughts on that backfield? What did you see? And is either of those players someone you're trying to trade for as you ask the question of whether or not you should tank?
I mean, I'm not tanking. I don't have my pick. I'm not tanking. There's no way I'm taking. But I would still go and get Dalvin Cook. Breece Hall is going to be expensive, especially after the game that he just had and showed that he literally has not missed a step. And I know a lot of people on that big breakaway, like 70-yard run, were saying like, oh, it's his injuries popping up. He was just tired, and he probably hasn't conditioned well because he was out for 9 months with an ACL tear. So, and Breece Hall's workload's probably not going to trickle off a whole lot, but I still think that Dalvin Cook will be involved. And so for that, I am not buying Dalvin Cook over Breece Hall. I'm getting Dalvin Cook at the price that he's at because he, like I said, he will have that RB2, and you can plug him into your flex pretty much any week when you're in doubt.
No, I like that a lot because it's important to remember Dalvin Cook was brought in for a reason, but he also looked really good. We just didn't notice how good he looked because Breece Hall absolutely stole the show. The other thing I'll say on the Jets side of the ball is that they're going to have to run a lot more if Aaron Rodgers is out. So both of those guys, this offense may change. I thought Hackett did a very good job play calling to be Zach Wilson friendly so the Jets could get the win, and what a win it was. But moving over to the Buffalo side of the ball, Davis, you have already talked about your super team. One of the teams that could potentially beat you has Josh Allen, has a few other really high-end pieces. Were you kind of stoked to see Josh Allen struggle the way he did? What were your thoughts on his performance? Because that is the type of player that can single-handedly win you a week, even against a super team like you've built.
Yeah, if I am the Josh Allen owner, I'm not concerned at all. They're playing against literally an all-world defense, probably the best defense behind the Dallas Cowboys.
Come on now.
Come on now. As 3 Dallas Cowboy fans, we are ecstatic. So just need to plug that in there briefly. Yeah, 40-0 Giants. You guys suck. But no, he's playing against his second best defense in the NFL. Obviously, we know he's prone to turning the ball over. It's not ideal to see him turn the ball over 4 times in one game with 3 picks and then a fumble. But at the same time, no, he's still going to be a fantasy football breaker for your team. I'm not going to be worried. And to be a competitor against him, I am still going to be worried anytime that I'm facing Josh Allen because he presents the upside to win you a week. So, I'm not going to be tilting.
You're not worried at all about Josh Allen. Like, it just seems like his decision-making has dwindled. Even over the back end of last season, it doesn't seem as sharp.
And he was still the QB, what? I think last season he was QB 2 behind Pat Mahomes. So that's part of what we're talking fantasy football. Yeah, obviously fantasy football and the NFL production are going to coincide. But at the same time, he's shown that despite making some boneheaded moves and turning the ball over, he's still going to be a fantasy football superstar. Yeah. So I am not, and it's going to help having, Dalton Kincaid, who saw 4 targets. I know I've been touting him a little bit, and I know we've talked about like rookie tight ends, but he saw 4 targets, which was good to see. So I just need to kind of put that in there for you all because I know I've been touting him a lot.
No, listen, I love the Dalton Kincaid plug. And let me ask you this. You made a bold prediction at the start of the year. They definitely seem to use him in the slot almost exclusively. I did not see him blocking much. That was all Dawson Knox. But Dawson Knox had a lot of targets. How are you feeling about that bold prediction about Dalton Kincaid? Do you still see a world where it happens with kind of the limited targets? Or is it, hey, it was bold for a reason?
I think something to kind of look at is his snap percentage. It seemed like he was always on the field. So in the first game, only getting 4 targets, that's not ideal. But for a rookie tight end, to see him just constantly on the field, I think that kind of relationship with Josh Allen is going to start to develop. Yes, my hot take might not pan out, but at the same time, you never know because they throw the ball so much. I
will say Dalton Kincaid looked good. From what I saw, he just doesn't look like a tight end. The dude moves,
fluid.
So well. He's so fluid. Yeah, so I'm liking that take right now. I'm liking that take.
No, I wanted to come on the show and dunk on you, but the more I watch the game, the more I realize this guy is a great receiver. Listen, he didn't have the production, but I mean, if you look at the tight end landscape, Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce both missed week 1. And so Dalton Kincaid, if he just plays a whole season, maybe hype will just carry him the rest of the way. Well, speaking of hype, I want to talk about a quarterback that I have been hyped about all season. Gentlemen, you can send me your apology letters. You can do them publicly on the show or elsewhere. But Jordan Love, without question, is going to be a top 10 Dynasty QB by the end of the season. He looked phenomenal, and neither of you can deny it. And I am going to the moon with it because he didn't even have Christian Watson. Dylan, you are a quarterback whisperer. You've been the most vocal about how you watch film. Did the film back up my takes on Jordan Love, or are you calling me a fraud still after that 3-touchdown performance?
Listen, I'm calling you a fraud if you're saying top 10 Dynasty quarterback. Absolutely, you're a fraud. Do I think Jordan Love, there's something there? Yes, I do think there's something there. He looked really good. I'm not going to lie. He looked really good. Now, the Bears defense, very, very sketchy defense. I don't know how much. I'm not going to discredit Jordan Love's appearance there because he showed up and he played well. And regardless, it's an NFL defense and he went out and did his thing. Scored 30 fantasy points this week. That's gold. He outscored a lot of the other quarterbacks that we thought. So I told you a couple episodes ago, you know what? This Jordan Love is kind of growing on me. He had a nice preseason, but now that he put pen to paper and actually went out there and did it in the regular season, yeah, I don't think he'll finish top 10. No. And he definitely won't be ranked as a top 10 Dynasty quarterback. But I do see he could be top 15. I can see that. Absolutely. I would buy the top 15 line for sure.
And
go ahead.
And just to say all those things, he is not going to have a better finish than A-Rich. And you are going to owe me $100. So I just need to put that in there. But Josh, I do want to say this. You were right. You were right. And you were saying not just because Jordan Love is uber talented. It's not that you think he is a superstar QB, but it's because of the system. It's because of the team that you trust that they will put him in positions to succeed. And I was naive and I should have listened to you. So you have me saying this to you personally. You were right. You were absolutely right. And Dylan, you very well might be right about Justin Fields for the same exact reason. That man is being put into some of the worst situations that I can think a quarterback could ever be put into. The play calling is atrocious. His offensive line is atrocious. He does not look comfortable. He doesn't look like he's reading the defense at all because he doesn't have time to do it. Josh, I know that you have some shares of Justin Fields. I have him in Yacht Club.
We're the Justin Fields guys. We love him. We've been trying to.
I'm not panic selling, but I'm a little worried. What about you?
No, dude, I'm with you on this entirely. At least that it needs to be noted. I wanted to take the victory lap on Jordan Love with Dylan, and I'm glad you let me react to it first because he was about to say, "But what about Justin Fields on the other side of the ball?" We'll get to your thoughts, Dylan. Here's what I'll say. A lot of really elite QBs struggled for fantasy purposes in week 1. I actually saw a mixed bag from Justin Fields in that I liked that he was getting the ball out quick. He was trying to check it down more. I personally think his pass to Roschon Johnson, who had a great game and is a name that you need to monitor, by the way, was also a touchdown pass. I thought he kept, if he had that second touchdown pass, no one is worried for fantasy purposes for Justin Fields. But, there was a ton of quarterbacks that didn't score well. Jalen Hurts didn't score well. Dak Prescott, who's not elite, but he's a good QB. So I think it's too early to panic on him, but he wasn't throwing the field down the field very well. Dylan, I'll give it to you. What were your thoughts on Justin Field on the other side of that Jordan Love debut game?
Yeah, I want to start by saying this is not an anti-Justin Fields kind of shtick that I got going here. I like Justin Fields. I liked him coming out of college, and I thought he was higher than a lot. I had him ranked higher than a lot of the other quarterbacks coming out. However, his situation last year gave me very, very little confidence that he was actually going to be developed because once he took the first year, he didn't start immediately. And then when he came in, you could tell that there was some raw kind of mechanic issues in throwing the ball downfield specifically. And that's where my worries began. And so what I saw in the game Sunday didn't reinforce it reinforced me. It didn't reinforce my confidence in Justin Fields to develop. It just showed the incompetency of that coaching staff to put him in a good position. And so I feel bad for Justin Fields. He could be one of those next quarterbacks that's just ruined between the ears because of just poor coaching. And so for fantasy purposes, I will say you're banking on him running. And I don't think they had really any designed runs for him. Every time he ran the ball was a scramble drill. And so you're hoping to see that change at least for fantasy purposes, or else me personally, if I'm a Fields owner like one of you guys, I'm OUT selling him for as much as I can right now.
So what I would say, and I've thought about selling. I've had some people like reach out, and I'm like, guys, I'm not an idiot. I'm not just going to sell low to you. Obviously, this is the buy low window where last year is kind of the same.
You did post in the chat. You were like, I'm panicking. Go get it.
That's just the David.
That's just the drive engagement.
Totally.
No. Totally. What I would say is last year we kind of saw the similar thing where Justin Fields had a little shaky, had a couple shaky weeks and was traded for Tony Pollard and Zeke. And sure enough, 2 weeks later, the man drops 50 points and everybody's like, oh my gosh, is this a QB5? Is he a top 5 QB in Dynasty football if he starts to like get it figured out? What I would say is this is an extremely important year, not just for the Bears, but for him in regards to the outlook of him being a starting quarterback in the NFL. So if I have him in a league, even if it's Dynasty, I feel like he's going to explode from a fantasy football production standpoint because he's going to have to put the team on his back. He's going to do whatever he can, use his legs, scramble, create whatever he needs to do to put them in positions to win because obviously the coaches are not doing a good enough job to put their team in positions to win. So yeah, he had a rough performance, but kind of like Josh, to your point, a lot of quarterbacks did. So I'm not too worried.
I want to piggyback off that real quick because I agree. He followed what the coaches had for him, which were quick passes, bubble screens. It didn't work. So by week 2, he's going to go to what he knows and what succeeds for him, which is scrambling, which is for fantasy goodness. He does not have a long-term contract. And so he's going to trust his legs at some point in the season. So I definitely think you need to hold him long-term. But speaking of rushing QBs, Dylan, as much as we hate your Justin Fields dislike, your Anthony Richardson love was already well paid off. He looked fantastic. What are your thoughts on his performance just really quickly?
Yeah, no, I loved what I saw. This is the complete opposite. Again, my argument against Fields is going to be my argument for A-Rich. His coaching staff set him up for success. His touchdown, it honestly was it was a screen pass that Michael Pittman just took to the house and did most of the work for. So, but they put him in positions to succeed. And Davis, you and I were talking about this. The one interception that he had, it was a play that he had to improvise on, and that is a little concerning. But what I will say is I trust the coaching staff to help coach him through that and get a game plan together that actually helps him succeed. And for fantasy purposes, he was running the ball. He was throwing the ball. That's exactly what we want to see early on. I'll take that. 21
Accuracy
points in his first
was not an issue. Yeah.
No, it was not. So that's what you love to see. I was very, very pleased with what I saw from A-Rich this week.
You spoke at length. Yeah. Well, it wasn't even a real injury. He bruised his knee, ended up being the diagnosis. Yeah. They only pulled him off the field because of concussion protocol, which I thought was wise and good for the NFL. But Dylan, you would not stop talking about the importance of Shane Steichen. I think we saw Jalen Hurts struggle in his game without Shane Steichen. So coaching clearly plays a part. Davis, real quickly, last quarterback I want to touch on before we take a quick break. Your whole take on Brock Purdy not succeeding is based on coaching. Brock Purdy certainly looked like he was succeeding against the Steelers. You think he was going to evaporate. Is Kyle Shanahan really that mean of a coach that he would get rid of Purdy even after that performance?
I mean, the man did not do anything spectacular. So let's just reiterate. No, he is an amazing game manager from the standpoint of he does exactly what is told. He doesn't make any crazy difficult throws. He just keeps it simple because they literally have an amazing offense and amazing weapons around him. So he could succeed. I'm not saying that from the jump, he was going to have a terrible fantasy season. But I'm saying that when he does start to struggle, because we have yet to see him really struggle in NFL games. So when the adversity does hit for them as a team, which actually I don't know if that happens because they're loaded. But when the adversity happens for him, and if he starts to turn the ball over, that's where I think Kyle Shanahan could move on. But yes, if you guys want to dunk on me, I probably am wrong. And they looked amazing as an offense.
Here's what I'll say. I do like dunking on you a little bit, but I think your initial advice was still really good because what is the ceiling on Brock Purdy's price? He looked good, but he threw for 220 and 2 touchdowns, I believe. We'll stat check that. It wasn't like it was fantasy greatness all around. What would you expect to be able to sell if he was still on your roster, Davis, as the value king? Would you be trying to get out of Brock Purdy if you were to sell him now, as opposed to before he played the Steelers and crushed them?
To be honest with you, a 24 first and a 25 first. I mean, 2 firsts still is kind of what we've said. I feel like what we've said on the show is that, especially in a 14 team, but even a 12 team Dynasty Superflex, the price for a starting cornerback that is not looking like they're going to turn over within this season is probably going to be 2 firsts, because you're not going to convince the owner to come up off a quarterback. So yeah, probably 2 firsts.
So my Derek Carr trade wasn't bad. Just checking back in on that.
No, because I actually think he sucks, and I don't think granted their contract. Yeah, whatever.
Davis is doing such a public service to the show because he's always been able to operate with doublespeak. And with
this is so ridiculous. I'm so sick of me getting aired out. No, what I'll say is what I would want to sell somebody. If I have the quarterback, I would want to sell Brock Purdy for 2 firsts. I'm not going to trade 2 firsts for Brock Purdy. There's a complete difference. So I just want to clarify that, because I kind of sounded like a hypocrite a little bit, but I'm not.
No, it's fantastic, and it helps people understand how you've built the team you've built. We're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we got All Aboard or Overboard. We've already alluded to it, of the nature of where our league, the Yacht Club, kind of is. Davis has built a bit of a super team, and he did so by years of work. The dynamic that's created is kind of the league versus Davis. Another huge part of our league is something called the power rankings that no one has asked for. I don't know if we've already mentioned it, but we're mentioning it now. Guys in our league demand to be ranked higher after a big win. And the Tua Tagovailoa owner was pounding the table that he should not only be ranked higher in the power rankings that no one asked for, but that Tua should be in the top 3 dynasty QBs. This guy is a real emotional pusher. I would ask this, guys: All Aboard, Overboard, Tua Tagovailoa as a top 5 dynasty QB by the end of the season. Davis, you're the Tyreek Hill owner. You're sort of pot committed to him. Are you all aboard or overboard with Tua as a top 5 dynasty QB?
I don't think that I could be farther in the ocean on that take. I am completely overboard. I see that yacht. That yacht is burning as it's sailing away, and I am literally in a little raft. But I'm totally fine with that. I am overboard on that take. There's not a world where Tua can ever be considered. And mind you, I'm talking KTC. Sure, some random analyst could be like, oh yeah, Tua, because he has the opportunity to throw for 400 yards and because of his weapons, he should be considered a top 5 QB. I'm talking KTC. We're talking KTC value. He will never touch top 5. I don't think he'll ever touch top 7, 8, maybe. Top 5, there's not a world, just because of the perception around him. He is one bad hit away from literally his career being done. So no, he looked amazing, and I love having Tyreek Hill. I am so far removed from that, and there's not a chance that I could ever be on board with him being a top 5 dynasty QB.
Okay, let's take out injury, right? Let's think of the top 5 quarterbacks currently. You're telling me that Tua cannot get into that top 5 at all. Taking the injury away whatsoever, you don't see the pathway to that?
So we'll go through the quarterbacks, right? We have Pat Mahomes, we have Jalen Hurts, we have Josh Allen, we have Joe Burrow, we have Justin Herbert, and then we got kind of Lamar Jackson. The pathway maybe is there. But the injury does exist. So here's what I would say. The injury does exist, and I can't get my mind around from literally the guy considered retiring this offseason. He came out and said it, that he considered retiring. And you're telling me that a person that had to think of whether they wanted or whether they would be able to play the game or not is going to be in the top 5 category, where you're pricing players at probably 4 firsts. So that's where, and I'm always thinking in the terms of value of, okay, I'm giving 4 firsts for every single one of those quarterbacks. When I'm giving 2 firsts away from for a Tua, or 2+ firsts for a Tua, I'm a little worried, because, and I guess that's what I say, when all it takes is one hit. All it takes is one hit for all the value that you just gave away to get him to go down the drain. So that's just where my mind comes at from it.
Yeah, I think the injury stench will kind of actually go away if he stays healthy this season. I really do, and I think that he would not have come back to football if he didn't take the measures necessary. Like I said before, he took the necessary precautions to go and do jiu-jitsu and learn how to fall properly. His offensive line, they were missing their best tackle in Armstead, and he still didn't get sacked. So they definitely reinforced that offensive line to protect him, and I think with that, you're going to see a little bit more optimism. I'm telling you, man, if he throws for, we saw it last year. He only played 9 games, I think, or something like that. And he finishes quarterback 15. Like, he just puts up numbers when he's there and when he's healthy. And with
the production
and Waddle, it's unquestionable.
Yeah. The production is absolutely there, where in terms of his fantasy finish this season, I could totally see top 5 because he could finish top 3. He could be the QB1 overall at the end of the year. But the reason why I am also overboard, but I'm overboard with like one side touching the yacht. Like Davis is on a raft. Like
you're close.
That yacht is gone.
But I think Dylan already said it, which is if he puts a full year together where he's not injured, he can perhaps wipe the injury stink away. But going even a little bit to my Jordan Love analysis, the problem is that it's a perception thing. What is in the news? We're talking about it. It was a point for broadcasters to talk about him doing jiu-jitsu because he's one hit away. When everything you're broadcasting about the guy is he's really good, but he's one hit away, it's going to take a long period of time for people not to think he's one hit away. And to Davis's point, I agree. In people's public perception and what we all vote on KTC when we log into that massive trade calculator that we all foolishly overvalue, it's not about his production. His production is going to be probably top 3, especially if he's healthy all season. It's the perception you're fighting an uphill battle for. I mean, look at the other side of the field. Justin Herbert feels like such a steady piece. And I got to be honest, he didn't throw for that much because the ground game was so good. But Dylan, I want to ask you really quickly, talking about that game, Mike Williams once again gets banged up. Now, he's not going to miss any time that we're aware of, but you were spot on with Mike Williams potentially being just evaporated from dynasty value. What were your thoughts on not only his performance, but the Chargers pass catchers?
He is the most predictable player in the NFL. If there shouldn't. I was about to say there should be an injury line, but that you shouldn't bet on people's injuries.
Wow. How dare you?
Listen.
That's terrible.
I don't wish injury upon anyone, but Mike Williams, I don't wish it upon him. He does it to himself. And it's because he's a big physical player. I predicted that. And what I'm saying now is the second that he goes back onto the field and he produces, trade him. A second, don't go third. But if you can get a second, a first and a second, whatever you can get for Mike Williams after a blow-up game, go and get it. I said also when I was talking about Mike Williams, it's going to be the Keenan Allen show, and I'm still convinced of that. You saw QJ. Yeah. He went out there, put up a dud of a performance. He's a rookie, so, again, be patient, but keep praying on that guy. I think it's going to be the Keenan Allen show and the Austin Eckler show. Now, Austin Eckler's injured, so we'll see, but I think Keenan Allen's going to see his fair share of targets, and he's going to feast. So if you can, go get Keenan Allen.
Yeah. No, that's a good thought there. Speaking of rookie wide receivers, QJ was definitely someone I was watching. He's on my roster, and I wanted to see him develop. I have been openly critical on this show every single chance I get about Mike's trade of 5 seconds for Zay Flowers. And I still hate it. I still hate the price. I still think it's absolutely crazy. But I would be lying to say that I didn't feel like a knife in the heart every time he caught one of his, 9 receptions. The dude was being used all over the field. The Todd Monken offense isn't complicated. It's, I have Zay Flowers, let me get him the ball. So, Davis, I want to ask you, do you still side with me on Mike's overpay of Zay Flowers? Is Zay Flowers not yet earned maybe a top 15 dynasty wide receiver, or was one performance already enough for him to skyrocket in value?
I think he's clearly the wide receiver 1 on that offense, and in an offense that does not feature Mark Andrews because he was hurt. I think he's a top 15 wide receiver. We have not seen what he looks like with their most valuable weapon. That's, I guess, my point that I would make. I think he looked amazing. I think the talent's there. When the ball gets in his hands, he is explosive. He is nearly impossible. I mean, there was a route that he just hit the flat, and literally the cornerback stood 0 chance of trying to defend the ball. He stood zero chances because he's so quick and so shifty. And as soon as the ball is in his hands, he can then just break it off. But my biggest thing is we haven't seen what that offense is going to look like and what the targets are going to look like with Mark Andrews. So that's where I would just pump the brakes a little bit on him. But at the same time, the talent is there. And obviously talent's going to win out. And for that to be his first game and him to command those targets, it's extremely impressive.
It speaks to why you were trying to trade back for him for a season. You saw what Mike saw, very jittery with the ball. Now, I know that Mark Andrews was injured, but most likely he's coming back. He had a quadriceps injury. And I'm kind of, as a Mark Andrews owner in other places, I'm glad that they withheld him from that game. Let's let him get healthy. But someone who is not going to get healthy is J.K. Dobbins on that team. He tore his Achilles. Really sad for him. Sad for fantasy for sure, but just as a fan of football, that dude worked really hard to get back on the field. He's just never gotten over the injury bug. But Davis, just really quickly, I mean, they lost. I know Mark Andrews wasn't there with Zay Flowers, but they lost J.K. Dobbins. They were handing the ball off to Zay Flowers, and they were also giving him like little shovel passes. Do you think maybe the production stays up because of the loss of J.K. Dobbins? Because if he doesn't get that work, who does?
I'm not saying that his production won't stay the same with Mark Andrews. I'm just saying that from a perception, and I'll scale it all back to perception. I'm not sure if I want to be buying at that price of 5 seconds yet, just because we haven't seen the production with Mark Andrews. But I still think that they showed that they're going to prioritize to manufacture touches for him. They are going to utilize him in multiple roles. So, I mean, it's very impressive. He was featured throughout the entire game in that offense. I'm just saying, like, I don't know if he's going to be priced as a top 15 wide receiver just yet off one game that did not feature their best target.
No,
but
I
could be wrong.
I want to let Dylan answer this because I got a question for you, Dylan. Davis, you've tooted your own horn a little bit too much this show, but that's totally fine. So I don't want to give you the credit. You traded Lamar Jackson way back in the offseason for 3 firsts. Dylan, Lamar Jackson did not look great, even with the Todd Monken offense. Forgive me. Is Davis low-key a genius for that trade, or is that just the first game jitters? Lamar will find his form.
I mean, 3 first value isn't bad for Lamar Jackson. Like, I wouldn't say it's wrong to trade for him for that.
I do just want to, for like the listeners and for the viewers, I want to contextualize it. It was not just 3 firsts. It was the 104 in our draft and then 224 firsts. And the 104 ended up being Anthony Richardson, who you are absolutely in love with. So I want to ask you guys, Lamar Jackson for A-Rich and 224 firsts. That's a smash deal for like the A-Rich side, correct?
I see, like I said, you had already tooted your horn. You talked about your team. This is what we give the listeners. It's the historical context of trades, right? Months ago, we're thinking about these trades and how they look long-term. And long-term, I think if I could get Anthony Richardson for Lamar Jackson straight up right now, depending on how my team is looking, I mean, I'm going to stat check this. We're definitely going to stat check this. I am very confident Anthony Richardson outscored Lamar in week 1. You add 224 firsts to that, and I'm not saying Anthony Richardson is going to do that every week, but he could. That's how you snowball into a roster that's an absolute wagon. Now, speaking of wagons, Davis, I love your hat. I love your hat.
Thank you.
Today. Can you explain a little bit of where that hat is or what that hat is from?
Yeah, so this hat is in honor of the team that I absolutely demolished this week, the Final Rose. I'm not going to name the owners' names, but I absolutely demolished them. I think the score was 188-63, I believe. It was just a great time. But this is in honor of them. I just want you guys to feel seen and feel heard. And to really just know that you are represented here because you did not represent yourself this week.
Yeah, no. So just for the audio only people, Davis is wearing a really cool tan hat with just a single rose on the hat. One of our franchises named themselves the Final Rose because getting a trade done with them feels like you're on The Bachelor. Like they're like, why do you deserve my player? One of those players I had been trying to trade for was Drake London, which they had on their roster. Part of the reason they got killed by Davis is their wagon was empty. It was completely without points.
Empty, like wagons have gas. Like wagons have gas. Do wagons have gas? Is that the title of this episode? Do wagons have gas?
Volkswagen. I don't know what wagon you're talking about, but
bandwagon. Yeah, no, you went Oregon Trail on that. But either way, what we're talking about, what I wanted to bring up was Drake London. Drake London was a touted dynasty wide receiver. I mean, last show I was talking about how Desmond Ridder only needs to hyper target him and Kyle Pitts. It did not happen. It was awful. Should we panic on Drake London? Dylan, I want to go to you on this. Is it time to panic on Drake London, for not just for the season, but for his dynasty value?
Man, oh man, oh man. It's not looking great for Drake London. We talked last show about him being a top 12 wide receiver and in dynasty. It's not looking so hot for that. I mean, I wouldn't panic just yet. I wouldn't just go sell him on the cheap by any means. You got to see it out. Honestly, I would probably sell Kyle Pitts before I sold Drake London. Just because I think it was a interesting game. The Falcons saw the opportunity to win the game, and they were playing a very, very bad Panthers team, so they didn't need to pass the ball. That's not going to be the case. Any division game, sure, it could be the case, maybe except for the Bucs, but when the Falcons play other teams, I do not think that's going to be the case. They're going to have to throw the ball because teams are going to stack the box. And so I think Drake London's value will continue to, I think, recoup a little bit. So personally, I would hold on Drake London. Now, if I'm going to
let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Just the team that has him was an expansion team. The Final Rose is an expansion team, and they're young. Their job is to get better over time. So Drake London's a hold for them. What if Drake London was on your team, Dylan? Would you be trying to trade him for a better win now piece, perhaps, because he could still fetch a decent price?
No, I mean, I would still, since I don't have any picks, I wouldn't do that. I'd like to keep the youth that I know has upside. If there's other players that I'd be worried about, like if I had a Kyle Pitts, for example, like we just talked about, yes, I would trade Kyle Pitts because I know his value is pretty much near its peak, being he's some people's tight end one still in Dynasty. I would trade him, because we're not in tight end premium. And I just don't think that I wouldn't want to hold on to an asset like that. But Drake London's a different story for me.
So Josh, you obviously just outed yourself publicly that you were trying to trade low and that you were trying to buy low for him. What were you trying to offer, and what do you think is a fair price? Like how far were you willing to go? I know I'm the one that always has to give the inside trading that I do. I want to hear, what were you trying to buy him for?
Dude, first and foremost, we got nowhere in the conversation. It didn't get anywhere close. It always circled originally when I had Pickens around George Pickens, and I would try to bring up Drake London. I haven't even texted them since his horrible performance because I'm biding my time. When I say trading with them is like trying to tell The Bachelor to pick me, it is like that. It's like, why should we do this deal with you? I'm like, bro, you're one of the worst rosters. You need to take the most chances. But they are so confident. They are entrenched. It's all good. But I mean, really quickly, Davis, you're the Bijan owner. Looking at that Atlanta offense, what were your thoughts on him? I mean, did he do enough to warrant that 101 pick over Anthony Richardson? Do you still feel confident in that?
Abso-freaking-lutely.
Oh.
The man got 9 carries. And yeah, he also got some receptions as well. Hyper targeted. I believe he had 6 targets. Just the limited work he did, but the explosiveness that he showed. Yes, was it a little frustrating? I wouldn't even say concerning. Concerning is not the correct word. I was frustrated that Tyler Algier got the goal line carries, that Tyler Algier out-snapped him even, and that he got the majority of the carries. But they're literally lining Bijan up in the slot as well, similar to what we saw with the usage of Gibbs. But I think that there's just something there as well. There's something more that they're trying to do with Bijan. He is the focal point of that offense. We want to talk about why Drake London is not getting targeted. We want to talk about why we should sell Kyle Pitts. It's because of what they're trying to do with Bijan Robinson. He is a part of every single play, whether they're bringing him in motion, whether they're handing the ball off to him, whether they're throwing a screen to him, whether they're sending him on a route. He is the focal point, and he has the attention of the defense. So, yes, I will take him 101 every single day of the week.
You think he's going to add more value long-term than A-Rich will in a Superflex league?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. I think we talk about generational. Well, hold up a second. No, you guys you're asking for my opinion. Charles Robinson was on here, and we were talking about generational prospects. He is a generational prospect. I'm sitting down on the couch. I'm sitting next to my sister, and we are watching the game. And the very first pass where he ends up scoring the touchdown, where he does a quick shift and then goes and then runs through 2 tacklers. And she's like, oh, my gosh, he's amazing. I'm like, You are damn right he is. You were right. He is. She's like, he's really good. Who is that? I'm like, Jess, you don't even know.
And I don't want it to be an indictment on Bijan because he's a great player. Absolutely. But if I'm in a super flex league and I have the 101 right now, I'm going A-Rich. Like, that's not even a question. To me, in the next 2 to 3 years, I think I'm going to get the most value out of A-Rich in a super flex league. You just talked about, specifically the Yacht Club. It's a 14-team league. Quarterbacks are going for 2 first-round picks. A-Rich, you're not getting A-Rich for 2 first-round picks. No chance. You would probably have to. I mean, Mike bought A-Rich from you, and it was right.
No,
I just don't think he's.
It was the trade, right? Like he got the 104 from the trade he did with Davis, he had the 101, and Davis went and got Bijan. So Bijan turned into Anthony Richardson, Geno Smith, and some other pieces, right?
Yep. Yeah. And a part of, I get what you're saying from the quarterback landscape. And yes, quarterbacks are kings. I get that. And I get that the running back landscape is not ideal and is not great right now. But we're not just talking about the average running back. We're talking about a 21-year-old who is, he probably could play quarterback if he wanted to. If Desmond Ridder keeps this up, we might see Bijan Robinson in the Wildcat, and he might bring out his arm too, and he probably can throw the ball pretty well. It would not surprise me. He is that talented. So I'm taking him the 101 every single day, Dylan.
I love it. Well, and I think to answer that question, I think it is roster dependent, right? If you are a win now roster trying to go chase a championship and you're good at quarterback, you can justify Bijan. But if you're rebuilding, I think it has to be A-Rich every single time. And so that's going to be unique to each roster. Speaking of you being unique to each roster, it has been well storied, my love for George Pickens and the back and forth between Mike and I. Mike finally bought him back from me. George Pickens is currently not on my roster. Should I use the super disappointing performance of the Steelers offense as a whole to go buy back my love, George Pickens? Dylan, you've already been my emotional advisor on this. Talk me off a ledge here. Tell me why I shouldn't go get my guy at a discount? Because I know Mike is sweating. Pickens didn't do much of anything.
This is like our 5th conversation. You're going to have to start charging. I'm going to start charging you by the hour, actually. Josh, get over her, okay? She's gone. She's not coming back. Just let her go.
And you don't want her back. She wasn't good for you. She was not good for you.
Not good for you. It was a toxic relationship. You were giving way more than you should have. Let her go. No, but in all seriousness, no, don't buy George Pickens.
I'm texting Mike you up right now.
I don't think George Pickens, I think he's a great talent. I think he's a great player, but just how he's going to be utilized, I just don't see it being effective for fantasy purposes. He's going to have those one-off games where, sure, he catches a touchdown, makes a sick catch, it's all over Instagram, and then you're going to, if I have him, that's when I'm looking to sell him. Right now, I'm definitely not selling him because you're like the Steelers are coming off a terrible game. You're going to buy or just be selling him at his low. So I just don't think he has the ceiling of, I know you think he has top 15, top 10 potential upside. I think he'll cap out at wide receiver 2 at best, personally.
A wide receiver 2? Because
a wide receiver 2. A wide receiver 2.
I heard it from you.
God.
No, Dylan thinks George Pickens is the wide receiver 2.
It,
but
please.
Part of those, let me ask you this. Let me change the negotiation just a touch. Not to tell you guys too much game, but Davis, if I was able to get George Pickens back along with Puka Nacua, who showed out for the Rams, because that's been another player Mike has who I almost paid for before the game started. If I could get George Pickens and Puka Nacua back, would that then be worth it? Could I justify my getting back with my unhealthy ex, as Dylan's putting it?
Puka Nacua or Travis Fulgham? Are they the same person? Are they the same person? Or
wow.
No, sorry. We're talking about Puka Nacua. Sorry about that.
Disrespect.
Yeah, no. I just kind of got confused when we were talking about like their names sounded similar.
The man had 10 receptions.
Yeah, no, looked really good. Looked really good. Looked like the favorite target of Stafford. And then when Cooper Kupp comes back, is going to be completely obsolete. Actually, Mike put in the group chat a tweet that said all fantasy football owners know that after Puka Nacua gets 11 targets, he's going to drop the 1 reception for 9 yards next week. And we all know that that's going to happen. And we all know that he's going to be in our starting lineups, and he's going to be getting us 1.5 points or however many points. And I'm not bought in. I think no, it's not that I'm out. I think Mike is a smart dynasty player. Mike, did you hear what I just said? I think you're a smart dynasty player. And I think he knows that his window to sell high is current. It is right now. And I think that's when dynasty owners can start to capitalize and win on the margins. Is you don't sell when they're at their pay, you sell when they're at their peak. So right now is the peak for Puka Nacua. People are all like, "Oh my gosh, is this guy a top 3, wide receiver in the like rookie class?" No. Let's all settle down. Let's settle down, and let's realize that he does not have the draft capital to support it. Yes, it's wide open when it comes to like targets in that offense. I'm saying that is going to be an outlier of games. But if you're getting him in a trade, I hope you're not paying a premium price. Like, what price are we talking? You can't keep hinting things to us and not give us details.
Listen, I'm trying to keep
take us below deck.
The moment I list and give you the list price, it becomes public knowledge. I feel like the bank. I have so many firsts. If I start saying
I do it
is involved,
transparency is key, Josh. Come on, transparency.
Okay. We'll go below deck here. We'll get right into it. So the trade I was going to have for Mike it's always been about him getting back his first, because if you're a dynasty player and you're a young team or a rebuilding team, you're trying. You want to be able to control your own destiny. So. What happened?
This guy has sold away his 25 first like 3 times, and every time I'm on the phone with him when he gets it back. You know what? I'm just glad to have it back, Davis. I'm not going to sell it away this time. And sure enough, first is back on the trade block. You know what? I've got an opportunity to win.
I thought we had production issues because you guys both started laughing so hard. From an audio perspective, you guys are just cracking up because Mike has traded his first away so many times.
Literally, yes. Like, I'm not kidding you. I was on a call with him earlier this week, or late last week, and he was like, "Yeah, man, like I just want to do this George Pickens trade because I want my first back." I'm like, "Bro, you just traded your first away," and he's like, "There's something about having your first." He just, it's comical how much he goes back and forth between.
So as much as George Pickens is my unhealthy ex, it sounds like his first is. So if I could get good value, let me ask you this, Davis. You know his roster decently well. If I could trade away his first, is there a package of players he has that would be worth it for my roster? I know I'm asking a lot off the top of your head.
No. If you were to trade his first for him, I mean, single, like just one single first.
Yeah, just one. Yeah.
Nothing else. I'd be okay with George Pickens and Puka Nacua coming back. I think if you were to offer him that, though, he would look at you crazy because he just paid a certain amount. But that, to me, is the price that's relative to what I'm willing to pay for George Pickens and throw Puka back on top because, I'm not in on Pickens. So those are the types of deals. Yeah.
Puka's being valued as like a second right now. So you're saying George Pickens in a second, essentially. You got to go with the market. You're the value king. The market is saying that Puka Nacua is worth essentially a second.
Sure.
So
yeah.
So you're saying George Pickens in a second is worth a 25, like getting your 25 first back?
Well, I'm saying that if Mike wants his first back and Josh is asking from Josh's perspective, like, okay, if I'm willing to trade Mike's first away, what do I want from his roster? I'd do it for George Pickens and Puka Nacua, but I could understand why Mike wouldn't do that. But for me, it's like I'm not. As you know, Josh is asking, Josh is coming to me. And by the way,
I want
everybody.
I like it. Yeah.
For everybody, not only in the Yacht Club League, but those that are DMing me and asking for my opinion, my mom who's sending me texts, hey, should I drop this person or at? I'm going to start to charge you guys a $1 fee, just a $1 base fee, every single question that's asked me. No. Listen. There is a famous owner in the Yacht Club, an esteemed owner, that literally is asking me questions in my DMs about trades that he should do within the Yacht Club. Little does he know I could be sabotaging him, but he has no idea that I'm doing it. And so I'm going to start charging.
I think listeners will be able to tune in to figure out whether or not you're sabotaging people in their DMs. But speaking of DMs, I did want to mention you were a sideline reporter at the USC game. You got to see Caleb Williams up close. In fact, you took a video that he did. You sent it to his DMs. He didn't respond, but we know he opened it. So we're that much closer.
We're that much closer.
Caleb Williams and you tanking for him because you love him so much. How was that, Davis, man? Like, what kind of experience was like for you?
Dude, it was amazing. I will say he is everything you could imagine in a prospect. The way he plays out there is so loose. It's so fluid. It looks like the game is completely sped is completely slowed down for him. He is a master of his craft, and he's one of the best collegiate quarterbacks I've ever watched. And then just to be there live, just the throws he was making, his ability to, I mean, he's an athlete too. So it's like, it's not just that he has an amazing arm and he has an amazing pocket presence, but he's also, it wouldn't surprise me if he runs in the 4.5s, 4.6s, low 4.6s next year. So you're talking about a generational prospect. We've said this multiple times. Charles Robinson came on here. We're talking about a generational prospect. And I have a tank of a team. I want to tank so I can get him because he's that freaking good. But no, the experience was amazing. Saw Amon-Ra St. Brown there. I do want to share a funny story real quick. So we're sitting in our suite. We then walk in, and to the right, sitting down casually, AirPods in, Jerry Rice. So the greatest wide receiver of all time is just sitting in the suite. Yeah, just sitting in the suite casually. Amon-Ra's in the suite. But I'm playing it cool. Inside reporter, not asking questions, just keeping to myself. But my wife has no idea who Jerry Rice is. No idea. And I look to my right, and Jerry was sitting by himself in the seats. His son plays on the team. I look to my right, and the two open seats, my wife goes and sits right next to Jerry. I see her ask, hey, can I sit here? So she's just sitting there. She's talking to him, having a casual conversation. And I finally text her. I'm like, babe, you were talking to the GOAT of all wide receivers. And she's like, who's Jerry? So that was just one of the all-time experiences that I've ever had. And it's good to know that now my wife has made a friend in Jerry Rice.
Now, I think what's great about that story is like the ignorance is bliss, because if you know who Jerry Rice is, you're not that comfortable around him.
No shot. And the funniest part of the story. So he proceeds to tell her, he had his AirPods in, mind you, as soon as she sat down with her friend, he took his AirPod out and started to talk to her. And so they're having a conversation. He proceeds to tell them that he has a son on the team. And he's like, oh yeah, he's like number 2. Literally the next play, Caleb Williams throws the bomb. I look to the right. My wife literally punches Jerry Rice in the arm like, that's your son. That's your son. I'm like, oh my. I'm like, babe, what is going on? What is going on?
What is real life right now?
He was the nicest guy. One of the nicest guys that I've ever met. And I think he appreciated the fact that they literally just approached him like a normal person and not like the superstar. But I was in complete awe. I didn't say a word to the man because I was nervous. So great time though.
Strange times to be alive for us all. Dylan, just as we close out here, we got news. We have no idea who this account is. We're certainly following them now, but Pod Chasers, which is a website and program that follows up-and-coming podcasts, named us to the top 25 up-and-coming sports podcasts. Not to say we're surprised, because we put in a ton of work. We have a great team, and we expect greatness for ourselves. But to have this success this early was a really cool, just kind of pat on the back as we continue to try to make great contact. Dylan, you approached me over a year ago about, hey, I just want to do a show for our league. What do you think? And I think we should bring Davis in. And that's where it started for us. That's been the beginning of our journey. What did it mean for you, much like having a dynasty team, to see the fruits of our labor get recognized by someone outside that we have no idea, unless it's my mom running the account?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like I'm going to be sitting in a press box with AirPods in, and someone's going to sit next to me and start punching me in the arm. That's kind of how I feel, because I feel like we're the goats. You
feel like
right
Jerry
now.
Rice.
I feel like I'm Jerry Rice right now, on top of the world. No, I'm just playing. No, I mean, it's a really cool, just to be acknowledged to any capacity. I think it's really cool for us. We all know how much hard work we put into this, but just to be acknowledged for that has been really cool. And especially so early on, like just getting our reps in and being able to just share this content, something that we're passionate about. Like you said, I approached you a little over a year ago, and we were just doing this for fun, and we didn't think anything of it. We were like, let's just do this to entertain our league. And then here we are now, and getting acknowledged in top 25 on Podcaster. Do we know who that is? No, but it's still cool recognition, right? So, I mean, it's just cool. It's awesome. I'm thankful that we get to do this, and it's exciting to, just to be acknowledged, I would say.
No, and I think what's really cool as well is when you are a part of the Inflection Network, which we joined, Mike believing in us, their whole process has been unbelievable. And I'm sure you also need to acknowledge getting mentioned in the same breath as Darren Waller with Comeback Stories, which if you have not checked out that podcast, please do. It's unbelievable. it's just a surreal moment for us, whether it's sitting next to Jerry Rice or, finding the success we've had. It's been really cool. Thank you for listening to us so early on in our journey, but we are just getting started. Yeah. With that, guys, the NFL season is also just getting started. I'm excited for Thursday Night Football. We will be back to react to all of that. Dynasty the king.